Before we
Yep.
get going with the debt
hmm
ceiling, I want to just get some background on the debt ceiling. The debt ceiling was created in World War II, right? How
hmm
much money do you need? We need this much money. Okay, cool. You can spend everything up until there, then you're good to go. World War II ended, we won, and everything was good, and that stayed in place every year. How much money do you need? This much. We need. And how many times had it been raised? Like 89 times or something like that. It's
Something like
ridiculous.
that.
Well, why does it
Yep.
even exist? Because it's a paradox of the English language. It's like the debt ceiling, but then like if I look up at the ceiling of the room that I'm in, I can't raise the ceiling, man. I can't. It's impossible.
Well, there are two things. There are two universes where the impossible becomes possible. Okay. One universe is in the Marvel comic strips. They're never
Yes.
really dead. You can
Yeah.
always bring them back somehow.
Yeah.
And in politics,
That which is the alternative universe that we keep talking about.
that's right. So, I mean, look, they don't like constraints on their spending.
So why do
Well,
they have? Why didn't they just abolish the ceiling? Fair
well,
enough. The government's got bills to pay. They need to spend money. So why do they restrain themselves there? Because both parties are as bad as each other. They say we're fiscally responsible. We're not going to raise the debt ceiling. We won't do this. And now Kevin McCarthy's come out and said, well, we passed this legislation months ago. We were ready to go months ago, and we're not going to spend any more money. We're going to put this on the back burner. And he's come out with all of these things, but the reality is they're no different to the Democrats.
well, yeah. Well, listen. Part of it, the two-part answer to that. First is they want to have the illusion there of responsibility. Yeah, I know that politicians have a bad reputation of spending money, but we do have that debt limit to keep us honest. They don't, but they can say that in their speeches, right? So part of that is to maintain the illusion that there is some control over the politicians, and the other reason is it does act as kind of like a benchmark. It tells you how bad you're doing, and they just want to know, okay, so we have to start slowing things down ahead of this little game we have to play for a few weeks. So it acts as kind of like a I don't know, a touchstone, little point at which that doesn't mean they're going to stop. That just means they kind of adjust things a little bit around that time period. They're going to go right back to their old ways. So no, it's all a game. It's all nonsense. It's all mirrors, and people have to understand that it is a game. It's not real, and this is all for show.
All right, let's have a look at your little report. What have you got for us?
All right. So about halfway through the report, I'm going to pause because there's kind of two different subject matters inside of my report that I want to cover. So about halfway through the report, I will pause, and then we'll pick it up again at the end.
All right, perfect.
We talk about this vaulted debt ceiling agreement that just came out. And spoiler alert, we were betrayed again. Okay, so as I personally predicted, I thought that there would be a debt ceiling agreement, and sure enough, we got it. And also, I predicted that the Republicans would cave, and sure enough, they did. So let's talk generally about what this debt ceiling agreement does. By the way, it's not official yet. They do still have to vote on it. I mean, there's still a small sliver of a chance that the right things could happen, but I don't see it happening. So the big bullet points on this is that they agreed to freeze spending for the next 2 years, the post-COVID spending, maybe up a little, down a little. But you have to remember that the post-COVID spending was up very sharply. So they didn't actually reduce expenditure. The Democrats still have all of their pet projects in place. The IRS is still scheduled to get all of their money. Well, about $1 trillion left. And McCarthy is calling that a big win. We scaled back the IRS, by $1 billion, which still leaves them $79 billion to arm 86,000 new IRS agents. So that's still in place. This tuition reduction scam, that's still in place. This Green New Deal stuff where they fund all these really stupid, bad environmental projects, that's still in place. And so what did we get for that 2 year of a freeze in post-COVID spending? Well, we got a guarantee that 2 years from now, the debt ceiling will automatically be bumped up. And they just locked in a guaranteed increase in our national debt by at least $4 trillion. Now, McCarthy is calling this a victory because he was able to get a few slivers of some of the things that he wanted. Look, this is what these politicians do, right? They never admit defeat. They're never wrong. They never have a failure. They always find a victory in there. But this package is a disgrace. And listen, they probably just got Donald Trump reelected. Nothing is going to change in Washington as long as your traditional swamp monsters are there. The only way anything is going to change in Washington is if we retire some of these established Republicans and get people in there with actual spines who will actually do the right thing by the American people. Kevin McCarthy is part of the swamp. He is an establishment politician. And on the Democrat side, you know, their leadership is absolutely, I'm talking about swamp monsters. These are swamp monsters on steroids. And they blew it because the Republicans had everything going for them. They had public opinion on their side, and they still managed to blow it. Now, some articles, like in the Wall Street Journal, they showed that the spending curve has been tapered, and now it's been flattening out. Well, it's flattened out after the dramatic increase in the post-COVID spending. Let's take a look at a chart out of Zero Hedge. Total farce, real spending under debt ceiling deal, actual. They always find a victory. Okay, so are we good?
We're good, yeah.
Okay, so so the swamp wins again. Okay, it's the same old story, it's the same old song and dance, and the Republicans do the same thing that they've always done. Now, the reason why I made a comment about how McCarthy might have just gotten Trump elected is that Trump's big selling point was that he is not a traditional politician. He hates just as many Republicans as he does Democrats.
Didn't the government shut down under him? Under
Well,
Trump,
it depends on what you mean by shut down.
Well, there was, I think the debt ceiling went to a point where they shut it down, and
but
they mucked around for a week or something like that after.
And everyone still got paid. I mean, the government shut down. Oh, no one's getting paid. These guys just got a free vacation. That's what they got.
Literally, you get a week's paid leave.
I mean, a government employee is probably ecstatic when the government shuts down. Hey, sweetheart, book that trip. You know, I got a couple of weeks coming to me at least. Let's go for it. But Trump is the one guy who is least concerned with towing the party line. With least, he doesn't have the same people to answer to that an establishment Republican does. And people want that. People, I think, are the reason why Trump got elected in the first place is because they are sick of the establishment. They're sick of being ignored, and they saw Trump as a non-politician. So in this day and age, not being a politician is a big advantage if you want to get elected. The problem is there are a lot of really good people out there in the country who would make really good politicians because they would look out for our interests, but they don't have the name recognition. They're not well known enough to run for office. Well, Trump is famous enough, and he happens to be a non-politician. But this is the prediction I made about how a debt ceiling is going to be reached. That was the easiest prediction I could ever make. While people were wringing their hands over, if they don't pass it, then the world's going to fall apart. Don't worry about it. They're going to pass one. And even if they didn't, they'll just pass a CR, a continuing resolution, or they'll put a Band-Aid on them. They know that we've seen this movie so many times before. I could say the dialogue because I've heard it. I've seen the movie so often. So. And now I'm sure you don't have the problem in Australia. You don't have that problem with the deep state or with establishment politicians, right, Rob?
It's different. So we have something similar, but it's different to what you guys have. Well, it seems like in the American system, what you have is like really badly amplified, and because of the huge division that you have, I always say. You know, if I could be how do I put it? If I could be non-negative for a second and be an optimist about Australian society, whenever you watch Question Time in the Australian Parliament, what you're actually witnessing, and I've watched that a lot over the years, what you're witnessing are two sides of politics arguing how to spend the prosperity of our money. And on one side of politics, you have people saying, this is what we're going to do, and that side's the government. And the other side saying, you shouldn't do it like that. We don't support that. You should do it like this instead. But really, they're both same side. They're two sides of the same coin because they're saying the same thing. And if one party's approach is slightly different to another party's approach, the end result is still the same, meaning they're going to spend that amount of money on that particular thing to get that particular outcome. And so if I'm an optimist about Australian society and our political system, I could say that that's a good thing. You have these politicians screaming and shouting at each other, and there's what would seem like massive division here in Australia. But the reality is, behind closed doors, they're all mates. Behind closed doors, you see them playing sport together. Behind closed doors, you see them talking to each other all the time. Behind closed doors, it seems like, actually, it looks like this is a system that these people want to work. And they're not doing it because they're trying to raise money to get re-elected. They're not doing it to try and raise money for the Liberal Party or the Labor Party or the Greens Party. They're trying to work together and come together as a collective to figure out the best way to move forward and